everyone, it's Emily with Hearty Soul. Welcome back to the channel. I just got in from checking on our mama ewes who are expecting lambs any day now, and we're just really anticipating the start of spring when our lambs come in, pussy willows blossom, when we can start harvesting more eggs from our chicken coop. There's a lot of things you can do with eggs, and one thing I really like to do this time of year is dye some using the same methods that my grandma used way back when we were kids. She would use things from her kitchen to naturally dye the chicken eggs that she was gathering every day from her coop. Things like red cabbage, yellow onion peels, turmeric, beet stems, all sorts of different ways to use things that you already have in your kitchen. And I'm going to show you how we naturally dye these eggs using things from the kitchen, just like Grandma did. All right, what do you say? I'm going to get this hair put up and I'll show you how we dye these chicken eggs. Let's get started. All right, so when we're making, I'm gonna come down here. Go. So first I'm going to make some blue dye, and blue dye comes from our red cabbage. So we're going to add 4 cups of boiling water, a couple of tablespoons of vinegar, and half of a cut up red cabbage. I'm just going to quarter that up. Save that little part for later. So believe it or not, this purple cabbage is going to produce these beautiful blue eggs. Just look at that beautiful dye coming about. We let these simmer now. Now, since we've already boiled our eggs, put them through the Instant Pot, the boiling process of the egg is already finished, so we don't need to boil them in this boiling hot dye that we've just created with this cabbage. So once this gets done kind of simmering out and it really cools down, I'm going to put the eggs in after it's cooled because I don't need to boil them any further. Grandma's recipe called for 6 skins of the red onion and 6 skins of the yellow onion, but I only had 2 of those on hand today, so I kind of cut the recipe down a little bit. So I added 1.5 cups of water here and 1.5 cups of water there, my 2 peels of each kind of onion, and then 3 teaspoons of vinegar. I have a blog post coming out real soon about how to cook your farm fresh eggs right in your Instant Pot for a perfect peeling egg every time. I'll put the link to that blog post right down here in the show notes. The next kind of dye I'm gonna make is with turmeric. So turmeric is that super bright yellow, and it's gonna give us this really nice mustard colored egg dye. So I've gone ahead, I've got 1 cup of water I'm gonna start boiling. Then I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of turmeric. add a couple of teaspoons of vinegar. And again, I'm gonna let this boil up really good, and then I'm gonna simmer it off before I put my eggs in it to dye them. Once I've got that turmeric all mixed in to this pot here, I'm just gonna turn off my burner, let it simmer, and then I'll start putting my eggs in once it's cool. So I'm going to use these just Pyrex containers, add my boiled eggs to them. And then pour my cooled dye right over top of my boiled eggs. Now, our eggs are automatically colored as they come out of the coop, which is super fun. We have Americana chicken layers out there and all sorts of, I love this chicken egg. This is a brown chocolate egg that we get from a chicken. I can't remember the name of the chicken, but I appreciate her brown eggs. And we just have lots of different colors automatically, which is totally cool to use these eggs. But these fun dyes that we're making today will just naturally enhance each color of egg itself. So I'm not getting real picky about what colors I use for which dye. I'm just kind of interested to see what kind of color this chicken egg could be eventually, because it is really dark already on its own. I'm just gonna add them here. And we'll see what happens. I do like to use our fresh chicken eggs in the spring, as we get a lot of them this time of year, to do some smoked eggs out on our smoker. And if you're new to this channel and you haven't seen that video yet, I'll put that here. Now I'm trying to make sure that these eggs are divided out equally so that the liquid can be above the eggs. So I just don't want to fill one of these containers up with eggs too high that the liquid can't go over top of them. Now you might also decide that you want these colors to be super dark, and if that's the case, then you might want to put them in the refrigerator for a day or so, and then they'll really dye up dark. I think we'll do this one with the turmeric. I'm gonna add just a little bit more water to make sure that it's covered. Kind of like a color marinade. Next we have our red cabbage. I might just put all of these canisters right in the fridge, maybe a day or so, and just sort of see how they turn out tomorrow. You can totally experiment with dyeing times. I'm just kind of showing you this quickly so that you can kind of get the hang of the natural dyeing process itself. Feel free to dye them as long or as short as you like. Another tip for having hard-boiled eggs, make sure you label the carton in your refrigerator or put them in a separate receptacle so that you know the difference between your raw eggs and your hard-boiled eggs. I promise you'll thank me later. Thanks so much for joining me today as I show you how we naturally dye our Easter eggs from things that we can find right here in our household or in the refrigerator. I hope you had a great time. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I hope you do so today. It's gonna be so great. I hope you have a great week. Thanks so much for joining me. You think it can't do this? Just on my nose?